All right, so here's the news articles I was interested in seeing. So I didn't know it was this good, although I guess I should have, because I knew somebody made $300 million hackers have earned on the HackerOne platform. Even so, I don't recommend it for Americans that can actually get a job in tech. I think you get a lot more money by just getting a normal job than you would by trying to get bug bounties. It's very hard to get them. You have to be the first person to find a bounty, and the hardest part for me is you have to do something that's fashionable. They only want to hear about certain kinds of vulnerabilities, whatever is popular. And what people do is they learn what they want, and then they go and find lots of websites that have that same vulnerability. So anyway, let's see. Am I going to pull a DB Cooper? No, I don't plan to jump out of an airplane. Anyway, I'm probably missing some of the subtleties of that. Anyway, but apparently they have had a lot of money earned on these bug bounty platforms, so I guess they're fairly popular. I know they sort of peaked in popularity a few years ago, and now a lot of people are sort of fed up with them, saying it probably doesn't really help your security that much to do it. But anyway, can I recommend a source to keep up with malware trends, but also a technical source? Well, I don't know. I keep track of a lot of news, but particularly malware, I'm not sure. Although it reminds me, there is this vulnerability Venn diagram, which I think may not be in my. Did you bring it up? Let's check out this one. This guy went and compared threat intelligence sources, which is very close to what you're asking for. I'll put this link in the Twitch chat. They compare several sources of open source intelligence about attacks. And what they found is there very little overlap. The Zero Day Initiative is, I think, HP. Then there's Nuclei, which is a vulnerability scanner. There's Metasploit. And then there's CISA, the government. And Google's Project Zero. Almost always is inside TSA. So you see these different event diagram of how much they overlap. It seems like they don't overlap at all. So it is a very good question to ask, where should you go to get good threat intelligence? And I do not really know yet. There are various sources, but apparently they don't much agree. So that may offer some enlightenment. I'm not sure. All right, and this one here is pretty interesting. They say I didn't know it was still this bad. I know it used to be this way. Most boardrooms, only 12% of Standards & Poor's 500 companies have board directors with cyber credentials. And most companies do not have any periodic communication between the CISO and the business leaders. Yeah, 47% of boardrooms interact with their CISO. So this, I know that it was this way 10 years ago. I didn't know it was still this way, that the people running the business don't even understand cybersecurity and don't even talk to their own internal cybersecurity experts. I thought people took it more seriously than that, especially now that everybody's getting hacked right and left, but apparently not. So that's a thing to know. I didn't know this either. This is interesting. Putin is upset because the entire nation of Russia can only build 40 satellites a year. And of course, in America, we're putting up thousands every year, and every other nation is putting them up, like India and everybody. And he's trying to find out, why is Russia so far behind? And so it seems like a fair question. Why? And they're trying to figure out why. I know there's an awful lot of corruption in the military in Russia, and maybe that's it. But anyway, they are very far behind. So the LastPass hack from several months ago, I mentioned it. I was thinking of moving off LastPass, although it seems like it's not worth it. But now the people that stole that data are breaking into the LastPass vaults, and they're finding cryptocurrency seeds, and they've stolen $35 million in cryptocurrency so far. So they are getting in the vaults, and they're finding people's cryptocurrency seeds. They say anybody that had their cryptocurrency seeds in LastPass should be moving that stuff to a new account urgently. And these guys went digging for fossil fuels, but they found hydrogen. And in general, this stuff is called white hydrogen, hydrogen that you find in the ground that does not have to be created by some kind of chemical process on the surface. And if you could actually have hydrogen wells getting hydrogen from underground, then it would be a very clean fuel, because when you burn hydrogen, it just turns into water. It doesn't involve any carbon at all. The only question is, how do you get a large quantity of hydrogen? And what these guys say is the probes that people use when drilling wells do not currently detect hydrogen well, and they've got a better probe to use, and they say they suspect there's actually a lot of underground hydrogen. The conventional wisdom in the past was there wasn't much hydrogen there, it's not worth drilling for, but they're thinking maybe there is a lot of hydrogen, and if so, then we could perhaps move to a hydrogen economy. We'll see what comes of that. Certainly, we need something like that because we have to decarbonize our industries and our cars, and it looks like the movement to electricity is really not happening fast enough and not as good as it should be, and we need to explore other alternatives. So I was very displeased to see this. President Biden has issued an executive order to regulate artificial intelligence, and I'm completely against this because I think they don't even know what artificial intelligence does yet, and you can't do any intelligent regulation, and indeed this, in my opinion, does not do any intelligent regulation. What it does is mean that you have to fill out a bunch of forms and submit them to some agency that won't know what you expect, so it just means you'll have to waste a lot of time filling out bureaucratic forms that mean nothing. So here's the sweeping actions. Developers must share their safety test results with the U.S. government. Good luck with that. I mean, hacking, we just, at the top 10 cybersecurity, top 10 AI risks just came out like 2 months ago. We don't have any AI vuln scanners. We don't even have a defined program of AI attacks yet and defenses. So I think, what this means is the AI companies will have to make up some meaningless garbage that they can call a safety test and then submit that documentation to the government to try to shut them up. They must develop standards, tools, and tests to ensure that AI systems are safe, secure, and trustworthy. So again, I'm sure they're already trying to do that. I know, for example, ChatGPT and Bard are constantly trying to stop it from saying terrible things. So they're doing this, but they'll have to develop some kind of fake test to make it look like they have some measurement of that, which they probably don't. Protect against the risk of using AI to engineer dangerous biological materials, which again, they're just going to have to fake up something. Protect Americans from fraud and deception by establishing standards and best practices for detecting AI-generated content and authenticating official content. They've already agreed to do this, and they've done it, and it's already been proven that everything they did was useless and doesn't work. This is very much like the mandate of Australia. About 10 years ago, Australia demanded that all ISPs will now block all the pornography and malware and stolen content on the internet. And it took them several years to admit that there is no way to do that. There's nothing you can buy that do that. And here, it's the same kind of thing. So again, this is a wish list written by somebody without any technical understanding, just like the previous article. And they're just making ridiculous demands that cannot be met. So it's just going to waste a lot of everybody's time. That's what I think. But a whole lot of people think we really need to regulate AI. It's going to end the world. And this kind of government regulation is going to save us.
Politicians can dream, can they?
Yeah, politicians can now say they did something. They did.
They can dream.
They can what?
They can dream.
Can dream, yes, they can dream. Yeah, but I think the main thing is to posture. The main thing is to say, I did something. This happens a lot. When the government is confronted with a problem they can't solve, they do something random and then say, there, I did something. Anyway, so CISA has announced a product called Logging Made Easy, which is some kind of software product intended to make it easier to do log management on Windows. So I'm sort of interested in trying this and seeing what it does. There's already an industry standard called Sysmon, which I use. Sysmon makes much better Windows logs, and you can forward it to Splunk. And this sounds like a similar product. I don't know why CISA made their own version, but presumably it does something else good. So it would be good to check it out and see how well it works. All right. And that's the OS open source intelligence being compared that I showed you before. And similarly, let's see if I can get this garbage to, okay. The British National Cybersecurity Center has announced a protective name service which seems to me to duplicate OpenDNS that we have in the States. It is a DNS server publicly available, and you can send your machines to use that server, and then it will block malware and phishing sites, which is just what OpenDNS does over here. So I think the point of this one is it's run by the British government and intended for British government servers. So I guess you wouldn't want British government servers trusting an American private company, although it's Cisco. But anyway, there already exists, and if anybody doesn't know, there are these DNS names like 208, 67, 222.222 is one of them. I got these addresses memorized. If you set that to your DNS server, then you will be protected against a lot of malware. When you go there, it will refuse to resolve domains that go to malicious sites. So it's a simple way to protect your users. And Windows 11 has a new Canary build, which, by the way, I might try it because you might have noticed my Windows 11 on this machine keeps complaining, saying I'm using an old developer build and I should update to the new one. And they put Copilot in Windows, which is their AI tool to help you. Copilot is already being used for developers in like Visual Studio to help you write code, and apparently they're going to have Copilot in Windows just to help you all the time, and that might be good. And they also had SMB client encryption, which I'm not quite sure, but I guess it will protect your SMB connections. But the part I thought was very interesting is this part, discovery of network designated resolvers. This will hunt for DNS resolvers that provide encrypted service on your network, which is, everybody's moving to DNS over HTTPS, but right now you have to manually configure that, and they're trying to make some kind of automated hunt where it will hunt for an encrypted DNS resolver and use it. So that seems interesting to see if it works. And I can already think of possible security flaws. Like I could run a malicious encrypted DNS resolver, the Windows machine will automatically go there, and now I could maliciously give them the wrong addresses. So it would be interesting to play with this and see what it does. So if you're willing to download a Windows 11 Canary Channel developer preview, insider preview, you can try that stuff out. Anyway, let me stop this recording.